Maimane.
Thank you so much, Speaker. And I'm very impressed with the President's talent to prepare an answer for a question that's spontaneous. But be that as it may, Mr. President, it's become quite clear that we're trapped in a cycle of high levels of inequality and clear poverty. Yet, our society is still unequal, and I think the biggest level of inequality, equally so, is those who have a job and those who don't have a job. It's the South Africans who are unemployed, the 10 million that we ought to answer questions for. And my challenge here, Mr. President, is that your government has proposed a minimum wage to come into South Africa. But your Treasury, your own government, has already proposed that if that proposal goes through, over 715,000 South Africans will lose their jobs. So surely, Mr. President, is it not time? I want to hear from you. What plans do you have to mitigate against those who will lose jobs? And whether is it not time to consider a job seekers grant to help South Africa?
Zuma said that we should immediately look into the issue of the minimum wage. We did so. And as we did so, Mr. Maimane, we did a research by top-class professors in our country who told us in their report that there are some 6.6 million people in South Africa who earn, on a monthly basis, less than 20 rand an hour. And they also said there are people in our country who are working people, given that we've got 16 million people in our country who work, working people earn even 750 rand a month, who earn 1,500 per month. Now, those are truly poverty wages. And the demand has been made throughout history for a living wage in our country. And in collaboration, and listen to this, in collaboration with the unions, with community-based organizations, and indeed with businesses, many of who support your party, the business people who are hard-nosed, focused on profit, finally said, yes, it is important that we should have a national minimum wage because we can no longer, as we signed the Ekurhuleni Accord, we can no longer have a situation in our country where people have poverty wages. That was a collective decision, the wisdom of people who applied their minds. And by the way, many of the business people who were there are people who run businesses, who know what they are doing, who are eking out a living out of running their own businesses. They said, this is precisely what this country needs to do. And remember, we are not the only country in the world that has embraced a minimum wage. Many countries, actually, if you go to the ILO, the International Labour Organization, they will tell you that more and more countries around the world are embracing a national minimum wage. They are embracing it, including developing economies. You look at Brazil, you look at a number of countries in Southeast Asia, and shut up, you Steenhuisen, and listen. You look around the world. I want you to shut up. I really do want you to shut up.
President.
Because
Honourable members
continues to make a noise and he's not listening.
Honourable members. Honourable President, will you just take your seat, please? Why are you rising, Honourable Steenhuisen?
House Chairperson, the Honourable President told me to shut up. I'd like him to answer, but shut up is unparliamentary. And if you're going to hurl EFF members out for telling him for deliberately leaving out, the rule must apply to him. He must withdraw.
I am prepared to withdraw, but I'd like Honourable Steenhuisen to listen. Because we are
Honourable members, order.
You know, you are touching a very sensitive issue.
Order, Honourable members.
Now, he continues, Honourable House Chair, to make a noise which is...
Honourable President, there is another point of order that I want to take. Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you.
Honourable Chairperson, I have been observing that there has been constant interjection by the Honourable Waters and the Honourable Steenhuisen. And I'm not surprised that that remark was made, because some of the interjections border on the offensive.
Thank you.
And I ask you to rule.
Honourable members, please take your seats.
House Chairperson.
No, Honourable Steenhuisen, I have not recognized you. I have not recognized you. Please take your seat.
Well,
I'm
would you recognize me after you respond?
No,
Thank you.
I am responding to the honourable.
Order.
Honourable members, just calm down. No, Honourable Chauke. If you read the rules, you will see that when I deal with a certain point of order, you cannot raise immediately
I'm not speaking.
a point of order. I've heard what the honourable member has said, and may we just, because we want to conclude this session in a way that allows the President to be able to respond to these points of, to the different questions, and to, when there's points of order, to deal with it. But let's not do it in a way that can potentially derail the business of the House. I will appeal from all members in the House that we allow the President to respond. The President has withdrawn the remark, and I want to continue. Honourable members, honourable members, honourable members, just calm down. Calm down. I'm not, honourable member, I'm not in dialogue with you, honourable member. I've made a ruling. The honourable President has withdrawn. Honourable Steenhuisen, why do you want to be heard again?
Deputy Speaker, the President, if you examine the Hansard, did not withdraw. He said he would be prepared to withdraw, and then went on to a conditional rant.
No, thank
He's
you,
the one who lost his
Honourable
temper.
Steenhuisen, take
You know,
your
when
seat.
you're President, you need to remain calm.
Honourable Steenhuisen,
This is not the NEC, this is Parliament.
Honourable Steenhuisen, please take your seat. And I want the Honourable President, order. I want the Honourable President now to continue. Honourable President.
Honourable Steenhuisen, I'm being very calm, Honourable Steenhuisen. I think you should listen. We're discussing a very serious matter that has to do with the lives of poor people. And it is your continued interjection, which included, you're talking nonsense, which included other expletives, that I responded in the way that I did. Because your leader has asked a question which I'm seeking to respond to, and to the extent, and I did say, shut up, and I've withdrawn that. And possibly I should have said, Mr. Steenhuisen, please keep quiet while I talk. So in future, Mr. Steenhuisen, and I'm saying it very calmly, please keep quiet. I'm talking. So, Honourable House Chair.
Order, honourable members.
What I was elucidating.
Deputy House Chairperson.
Honourable Steenhuisen, why are you rising now?
Yeah, I'd like to address you in terms of Rule 85, if I may.
Yes, honourable member.
The President said that I'd used expletives against him. This is casting a deep aspersion on me, and I would ask him to please clarify what expletives I used. Otherwise, he must withdraw or bring a substantive motion.
No, honourable member, no. Honourable Steenhuisen, take your seat now,
House
please.
Chairperson, the President accused me of using expletives. I've never used an expletive against the honourable
member.
And he needs to toughen up. This is not the NTN board or the NEC. It's Parliament. It's a robust environment, and he should learn to...
Honourable member, take your seat. Honourable members, I've made an appeal to both sides of the House that we allow to engage each other in a respectful manner. And please, let's do so. Order, honourable members. Yes, honourable member.
You know, Chairperson, Yabona President, that's why I'm going to Kuruma Nawaganji. Nibanige Zonta and Funut Sutat. That's why I'm going to Velo and Telering.
Thank you, honourable member. Please take your seat. Continue, honourable President.
No, what I was elucidating was that
Order, honourable members.
Honourable Maimani, with 6.6 million people earning way below 20 rand an hour, we collectively, business, labour, community-based organizations and government were faced with a choice of having to say, do we leave those 6.6 million people to their own fate, where they continue to earn less than 20 rand an hour, and say, market forces will continue to look after you? Or do we say we are going to peg minimum wage at a much higher level, which would have wiped out quite a lot of employment? And we chose the middle course. The middle course, which we believed was a much more reasonable way of addressing the plight of 6.6 million people, but at the same time ensuring that we do not destroy jobs. Now, yes, a report came through that if you implement the 20 rand an hour, yes, you would be able to wipe out 750,000 jobs. And we asked ourselves, what is the lesser of all the evils? Do we peg a minimum wage at 12,000, where we would wipe out maybe 8 million jobs? Do we leave those who are earning less than 20 rand an hour to their own wiles? Or do we embark on a middle course? A middle course, yes, which would result in 750,000 people losing their job. We chose the latter. But we also said we are going to allow those companies that are going to face great difficulties in paying the 20 rand an hour to come forward and apply for exemptions, so that we do not get people losing their jobs. And as it has turned out, a number of those companies have come forward, and when they do come forward, they have to apply and justify why they are not able to pay that minimum wage. And through that, we are going to be able to minimize the loss of those 750,000 jobs. We are going to be able to lift 6.6 million people out of income poverty or low wages, and at the same time, we are also going to take care of those workers who work in the farms and those workers who work in our houses, domestic workers. We're going to give those employers an opportunity to upgrade those wages over time. So with that, we then had a process which we believe can work for our economy, given the fact that all over the world there is a wave of minimum wage processes where countries are beginning to embrace the minimum wage movement, if you like. And we had the best world experts from the ILO, from our universities, from a number of countries, both developed economies and developing economies. And we had the best advice, if you want to know, to arrive at this minimum wage that we crafted. Now, this is a foundation. This is not a living wage, as we have said. This is a wage below which no worker in South Africa should be paid, except for domestic workers, as well as for those workers who work on our farms, only for a limited period. And they will also be lifted to the level of the minimum wage. Now, the minimum wage is going to be regulated by an employment commission, which is going to be able to review this minimum wage on an ongoing basis. And for those who say it is far too low, we want you to keep in mind that if we had raised it a bit too high, many people were going to lose jobs. And for those who say the 20 rand is too high, we have 6.6 million people that we, as a country, as a nation, needs to look to improving their livelihoods. So faced with all this, we were able to craft this minimum wage, and we believe that it is going to lift 6.6 6.6 million people out of income equality, Mr. Maimani. And I'm sure you can agree to that as well. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up, Honourable Lokota, why are you rising?
I'm rising on a point of order, Chair.
Yes, Honourable Member.
I did not want to interrupt the response of the President, but just before the President did that input, this gentleman here, next to Mr. Shivamba, I forget your surname, I'm sorry. Honourable Dlamini, no, I must say this. He addressed you and then he turned to say to the President, abelungu sebethi kanje bakhuluma kanjena ngoba nibavumela ukuthi bathathe umhlaba. Now I'm rising on this issue. That is a racist statement.
Honourable Lokota.
That's a racist statement.
Thank you.
That should not be allowed in this house. You must go and listen to the Hansa.
Thank you, Honourable Lokota.
And let me say, make my request.
Now, Honourable Shivambu, let me just
let me make my point. You must listen to that statement and get your table to assist you. You must return a ruling on this thing.
No,
we cannot allow people to address each other here in racial terms.
Lokota. Please take your seat.
We can't do that.
No,
the context is very clear. It's racist.
Take your seat now, Honourable Member. Now I will listen to the recording and look at the answer. Honourable Shivambu.
I want to plead that we must ignore the ideological confusion of.
No, Honourable Shivambu, I've said I will look at it
and continue with this process.
Thank you. Thank you. The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable.
Israel,